Behind the Shades.
So, Andrea, it sounds like you have established this well balanced person. You mentioned that there's a time in your life where you were that person on the dance floor. You mentioned how you had depression. You mentioned how you changed your life, and it's all been centered around your faith and how strong that is. At this point in your life, how much of a protector is your faith to you?
Yeah, I don't know. Faith is, I feel like faith was brought to me in a different way than I've ever heard faith brought to me from any other person in the world. And, you know, whenever I think about faith, I think about Peter and how he, you know, denied Christ 3 times. And it's these things that we do wrong under God because we want to show up for God in the way that we know that God wants us to show up. And sometimes we fall short in those areas. And it's the condemnation, I think, that holds us to, repeating these different things about us. And so faith faith is a huge part of my day. I have to have faith that, I might have said the wrong things right now. I'm going to have faith that God's going to work. Like there was a reason for that, and God's going to use that. Just the same as Peter betraying Christ 3 times, that was a part of the prophecy that had to take place for us to be saved. And so I just got to think to myself that that's part of, what God wants to be done on this earth, but also faith definitely guides my steps. It's yeah, I would be dead without faith I mean,
When I
yeah,
look at my faith, I look at it as in the good book where it mentions you want to adorn your armor, right? From the helmet to your sword to your loins to your boots, everything, your shields, right? You
yeah,
want to be fully clothed in it because when I was brought into it, I was very young. And then I stepped away because of my parents' situation. They divorced and you kind of had your distance. And then I was brought back into it the first time as an adult, but the second time in my life. And then I kind of was hesitant because, as I mentioned, I wasn't fully prepared in my mind.
yeah,
But then when I got back the third time, like you mentioned, Peter, 3 times, right? The
yeah,
third time, it was like, this is for me because it's always been for me. And one of the books in the Bible that I love is the book of Romans because I feel that book speaks to me, how it talks about people coming into the faith and becoming a better person. That was
right.
like one of the overall themes because when I point back to it, I always point back to that. And one of the beautiful things that I will always remember is one day with God is like 1,000 days, right? Like you want to yearn for that connection.
Right.
When you speak to the men and women you speak to, or when you speak to the next generation, what's something that you would share with them to help inspire them and to keep them strong when speaking to them?
Um, I think that a lot of times whenever I speak to people, we have a lot of things happen throughout the day, and sometimes we're going to walk in, areas that are uncomfortable and, that hurt. And so I think the most important part of prosperity is just understanding that is understand it's not in vain. Like there's a reason for it. We don't know what's going to happen in, after our life. We don't know what's happening in, all these things that we're walking through. We don't know who is getting saved because like we just really don't know the bigger picture and what these things are that we're walking through. We can only see what's in front of our eyes. And so I think it's important to just allow things to happen, allow things to move, and just walk through that, and understanding that there's things happening outside of our view that we have no idea. The magnitude of the beauty that's happening in just chaos. So, and I think it's the chaos or these breaking points that, we carry around as backpacks and end up, keeping us defeated on those days where we should be feeling victorious. And if we're not really holding these things so much to as their concrete evidence of what's happening right now in my world, then, it's easier to maneuver the terrains that we're going to walk throughout this life. So,
Are there still days where you feel that that backpack you're carrying is heavier today than it was yesterday?
absolutely. And I really do feel like this walk with God is a process. If only we could just be like a light switch and be like, I'll fix. But I mean, the fact of the matter is that we've all dealt with trauma. Every human on the planet has dealt with trauma in one spectrum or another. And so, but also we've dealt with corruption. And so we've been spoken against and told that we're not good enough whenever God says that we are. And, we learn all these things from our environments until we realize that it's inaccurate. And so I really think that it's a process with God. If only there could be like a finish line where like, yes, I hit that place where I don't have to attend to these traumas anymore, or these, things that I'm walking through, and I can just elevate above all these circumstances all the time. But it's a constant reminder of, God's goodness, but also it really does pull us closer to the spiritual essence of us, which, I mean, is our freedom from it all. But it's definitely, we're flesh, so we're gonna war against ourselves, I guess.